Hmm, let's see how the Stepfordist video is doing.
Woo!
Guess people enjoyed it. Might as well make another one of those. Hello there. So as you may know, we now have this. Before that we had this time, when diesels ruled the UK. And before that even, we had this, the steam era, which is the topic of this Stepfordist episode. So, this was how that era affected Stepford. Our story starts in 1849 with this person, Charles Woodhead, founder of the Great Stepford Railway, the predecessor of the Stepford County Railway. Charles was an insanely rich millionaire, and he wanted to do something with that cash. At around the same time, steam trains were all the rage in the UK, and while places like London were being flooded with railway proposals, Stepford County was devoid of any railway proposals. So, Charles decided to invest £2 million in the new railway in Stepford, which may not sound like much nowadays, but £2 million in 1849 is the equivalent of 69 million pounds today. The first locomotives he bought were these 4x0 type engines. Charles bought 50 of them, which wanted to use them on his first line, which he wanted to be between Stepford Town and Benton Port Street, now called Stepford Central and Port Benton respectively. Soon, they built the railway itself, which took almost 2 years to finish. Fortunately for Charles, it paid off. Unfortunately for me, I have to wait for a red signal. On the 31st of May 1851, the Great Stepford Railway was opened, which went something like this.
Hello people of Stepford. I hereby officially open a connection between Stepford and Benton with the latest technology, which shall be called the Great Stepford Railway. Calm down, not only we will connect those two cities, we also want to connect to Ellesmere, Hargate Village, and even hopefully, Winstry. Everyone, it seems like we do not have enough money for all those extensions.
Yes, Charles ran out of money, which he did not expect. So, he did not need 50 engines. Most of them were bought in preparation for extensions, however, as there was no money left to build said extensions. He did not need that many engines, so he decided to sell them all to save costs. The GSR's fleet was reduced from around 50 locomotives to just 5. While the GSR was earning from selling those engines so much money even that Charles decided to build the Ellesmere branch from Stepford Junction, it would not last forever. Soon, the GSR was in a massive amount of debt, all due to Charles' cockiness. And in 1853, just 2 years after the GSR's opening, the railway was bought out by Stepford County Council Authority, which wanted to take a different approach. The council decided to introduce schedules, which was something Charles never thought of for some reason. Now, there were 2 trains an hour between Stepford and Benton, and 1 every hour on the Ellesmere branch. While this may not seem grand, back in the time between 1851 and 1853, the GSR drivers just went wherever they wanted to go to, as there were no proper schedules, so passengers hated travelling by train. As these schedules made travelling better, more people started to go on the GSR, which meant money, and money meant extensions, lots and lots of extensions. So much extensions, in fact, they needed a new map designed. Much better. Just the junctions and termini. Better? Right. So, between 1853 and 1876, they were doing business as usual. But in 1876, something grand happened. In that year, the long-awaited extension to Winstry, now called Leighton, was opened, and with this, a new express service was introduced to run between Stepford Town and Winstry Brighton Road, located at the same site as Leighton Stepford Road today. So, the Stepford Flyer which was the name of the service, was hauled by a Stirling 4-2 type locomotive, which would become the icon of steam traction in Stepford. The service was popular too, not just for the rich, but for the middle class too as well. Because of all this, the GSR was earning money, lots of it in fact, which of course meant extensions, and more of them. So, between 1876 and 1908, they were being insanely rich, but in 1908, something important happened. To assist against rebels in India, a British colony at this time, the government of the UK asked the GSR to build a short line on the Willowfield branch to a military barrack near Hemden and to connect a line between it and Port Benton, which the GSR did. This turned out to be a great decision, not just for the fact that Britain won against the rebels, but most importantly for what was about to come. Because, in 1914, the United Kingdom declared war on Germany, thus entering World War I. During the war, many trains were running between Hemden Barracks and Port Benton to transport soldiers to mainland Europe, which helped a lot during the war. The thing was that the Great Stepford was not earning from normal passenger runs, so almost all lines except the Stepford Main Line, the Hemden Barracks to Port Benton line, and the Ellesmere branch were closed down during the war. However, they were still doing well. Also, another line requested to be built by the government was a short line between Port Benton Passenger Terminal, now Benton Bridge, to the new Stepford Airfield to aid in bombing German cities. Anyway, we are getting off topic, so let's just move to 1918 when the war ended. The Great Stepford Railway, being seen as a large factor into British victory, was seen as majestic by the British public. Thus, many passengers wanted to travel on the GSR, which meant money. With this immense popularity, Stepford County was one of the busiest counties in the UK in terms of railways. The GSR was so popular that when the big grouping happened, in which the LNER took over the GSR, there were many protests to preserve war history. In the end, the people of Stepford won, and the LNER made the GSR exist as a company of the LNER. Something similar happened with the Great Western Railway, by the way. Guess the LNER is the Chad of railways. And as you may have thought already, the GSR also helped the UK during World War II. And now, Stepford Airfield was also used against Germany. And why does SCR really want me to spad in all of these videos? This happened last time too in the Stepford video. Let me show you real quick. It was obvious that the extension would come one day, and on the August 27, 2022, well, I spad. Yeah, anyway, please DEV team do not demote me please. Anyway, we now return to steam in Stepford. WW2 was pretty much the killing blow to the GSR, the steam engines, and just railways as a whole. And no, not due to the R-Strain painter, but due to, well, something like this. But before we talk about a very tragic event, first a quick word from our sponsors, Raid Shadow Legends. Just kidding, I am not that evil. Back to the video again. In the night of the 20th of January 1944, a passenger train was running a service between Port Benton and Victoria Palace, now Stepford Victoria. On approach to Stepford Junction, the train was put on the tracks where a troop train was running, and well, the two trains crashed into each other at very high speeds, which meant both locomotives were crushed in the derailment. This became the worst accident in Stepford's history, with 121 people losing their lives. An investigation was launched, and it was proven that the GSR and LNER were at fault for the accident due to terrible signalling. Thus, popularity in steam traction plummeted, and even after the war, the effects of the disaster were still there. Soon in 1948, all railways in the UK, including the GSR, were nationalised into British Railways. And no, not the game, the company. Unfortunately, at this time, demand for railways was low, not only for the crash at Stepford Junction, which was renamed to St Helens Bridge for obvious reasons, but also due to the car, which became way more popular with the bridge people. Still, the biggest blow to Stepford's railways were to the steam engines. BR wanted to introduce more diesels on their network, and soon Stepford was getting affected by it too, which unfortunately meant most steam engines were scrapped. Eventually, The Beeching Acts of 1963 completely ended the steam legacy. Here is why. First off, they were going to close almost all lines in the county, but the second one was the biggest blow to the steam era. All steam engines in Stepford County would be replaced by diesels. So, that was the whole steam era of Stepford. Now, okay, bye.